Tonight, before the sun rises over the Mediterranean, you are arriving in Alexandria in the year 30 BC. Ahead of you, the Lighthouse of Pharos burns above the dark harbor, guiding ships toward one of the greatest cities the ancient world has ever known. Below its light, sailors, bakers, merchants, and scholars are beginning another ordinary day. Stay with me, and let this lost city slowly come alive around you. You will not enter Alexandria as a conquering general. You will not stand within a royal palace, and you will not witness the final struggles of queens, armies, or empires. Instead, you will arrive quietly, before sunrise, at the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. It is the year 30 BC. Alexandria has recently entered a new chapter of its history. Cleopatra is gone. Egypt now answers to Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. Yet beyond the decisions of rulers, ordinary life continues. Fishermen still prepare their nets. Bakers still light their ovens. Sailors still watch the wind. Merchants still wait for ships arriving from distant shores. And every morning, the city awakens beneath the light of the great lighthouse. You approach Alexandria from the sea. The night is calm. The Mediterranean stretches around you like a dark sheet of polished stone. Only the gentle movement of the waves disturbs its surface. Above, the stars are bright. They seem close enough to touch. A thin crescent moon hangs low over the horizon, casting a pale silver path across the water. Your small vessel moves slowly toward the harbor. The sail has been lowered. Two sailors guide the boat forward using long wooden oars. Each stroke enters the water quietly. Lift, dip, pull, then silence again. If peaceful journeys through history help you relax, leave a quiet like and subscribe to Niloria. And now, let us enter ancient Alexandria. Ahead of you, the coastline is almost invisible. But one structure can already be seen: the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Ahead of you, the coastline is almost invisible. But one structure can already be seen: the Lighthouse of Alexandria. It rises from the island of Pharos at the entrance to the harbor. Even in darkness, its shape dominates the horizon. A square base supports a narrower middle section. Above that stands the highest tower. At its summit, a fire burns steadily against the night. The flame is protected from the wind by stone walls and carefully tended by workers who remain awake while the city sleeps. Its light reaches far across the sea. Sailors depend upon it. For some, it marks the end of a dangerous journey. For others, it is the final sight of Egypt before they disappear beyond the horizon. Tonight, the fire glows like a distant star brought down to earth. The sailors beside you barely look toward it. They have entered this harbor many times. To them, the lighthouse is familiar, reassuring, almost ordinary. But to travelers arriving for the first time, it must feel impossible. A mountain built by human hands, a tower taller than anything most people will ever see. As your boat moves closer, the harbor slowly reveals itself. Dark outlines appear upon the water. Fishing boats, merchant ships, small ferries, large grain vessels resting heavily beneath their cargo. Some have arrived from cities along the Egyptian coast. Others have crossed the Mediterranean from Greece, Cyprus, Rhodes, or the lands farther west. Several ships are anchored outside the harbor entrance, waiting for daylight before attempting to pass between the stone breakwaters. Their lanterns sway gently from wooden masts. Tiny points of golden light moving against the darkness. The smell of the sea becomes stronger. Zold, wet rope, tongue, wood soaked by years of travel. A faint breeze carries another fragrance from the city. Smoke from household fires. Baking bread. Oil burning inside thousands of lamps. Alexandria is still asleep, but it is never entirely still. The harbor works according to the sea rather than the sun. Tides, winds, and arriving ships do not wait for the streets to awaken. A group of fishermen has already returned from the night waters. Their narrow boat passes close to yours. A lantern hangs near the bow, illuminating baskets filled with silver fish. The fish shine briefly as the boat rises and falls upon the gentle waves. One fisherman sits quietly repairing a torn section of net. His fingers move by habit. He ties one knot, then another. He does not need full daylight to complete the work. He has repaired nets like this since childhood. At the stern, an older man guides the boat toward a small landing place. He knows every hidden current near the harbor wall, every shallow area, every place where submerged stones wait beneath the surface. The boat turns gently. A rope is thrown. Someone on the dock catches it. The fishermen have returned home. Your vessel continues onward. To your left, the island of Pharos stretches along the harbor entrance. Workers live near the lighthouse in small stone buildings. Storage rooms hold wood, oil, tools, rope, and supplies needed to maintain the tower. The fire at the summit must never be allowed to die during the night. Fuel is carried upward through the enormous structure. Stone stairways and ramps lead through its interior. The work is constant. Smoke rises from the highest level before drifting toward the open sea. The wind catches it, pulls it apart, then carries it into darkness. Between Pharos and the mainland runs a long causeway. The people of Alexandria call it the Heptastadion. It divides the waters into two great harbor areas. Over generations, sand and earth have gathered around parts of the causeway. Buildings, warehouses, and workshops now stand along sections of it. Even before dawn, a few lamps move slowly there. Dockworkers begin making their way toward the waterfront. Your boat enters the great harbor. The sea becomes calmer behind the protective walls. The sound of the open waves fades. In its place come smaller noises. Wooden hulls creaking, ropes tightening, water tapping gently against stone steps. A sailor coughing somewhere in the darkness. The distant call of a night watchman. The city lies ahead. Alexandria is unlike any other place in Egypt. It does not grow from the banks of the Nile in the same way as older cities. It faces the Mediterranean. Its streets were planned in long, straight lines. Its districts contain temples, workshops, markets, palaces, gardens, warehouses, and crowded residential buildings. Greek architecture stands beside Egyptian traditions. People from many lands share the same streets. Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, Romans, Syrians, Nubians, sailors from islands scattered across the sea, merchants who have spent months traveling between ports. Each brings a different language, different clothing, different prayers, different memories of home. Yet all of them understand the rhythm of Alexandria. Ships arrive, goods are unloaded, grain leaves Egypt, silver returns, papyrus travels across the sea, glass, perfume, linen, spices, wine, oil, timber, and pottery pass through the harbor. The city listens to many voices. but the language of trade is understood by everyone. Your vessel approaches a stone quay. Several workers wait beneath a row of oil lamps. Their clothing is simple: short tunics, woolen cloaks against the cool sea air, leather sandals darkened by water and mud. One carries a wooden tablet coated with wax. Another holds a lantern close to the edge of the dock. A sailor at the front of your boat throws a rope. It passes through the air and lands beside them. The workers secure it around a heavy stone post. The boat touches the quay with a soft wooden knock. Your journey across the harbor is over. You step onto the stone. It is cool beneath your sandals. The surface has been worn smooth by generations of workers, travelers, animals, and cargo. Nearby, men unload amphorae from another vessel. Each tall clay container has a narrow base and two strong handles. Some hold wine. Others contain olive oil, fish sauce, dried fruit, or preserved food. The workers move carefully. A dropped amphora means lost goods. Lost goods mean lost money. Two men carry each container between them using a wooden pole. They lift together, walk together, lower together. Their movements are slow and practiced. Beside them, a clerk marks symbols upon a wax tablet. He checks the cargo, counts the containers, confirms the owner. Every object entering the city must belong somewhere. Across the quay, large sacks of grain are being stacked beneath a covered shelter. Egypt's grain is among the most valuable resources in the Mediterranean world. The fertile lands along the Nile produce vast harvests. From Alexandria, ships carry grain northward toward crowded cities across the sea. The sacks are heavy. Dockworkers lift them onto their shoulders and walk along wooden planks toward the warehouses. Their footsteps create a steady rhythm. Wood bends, rope tightens, grain shifts inside woven cloth. The work continues quietly beneath the fading stars. A group of donkeys waits near the edge of the dock. Their baskets are empty. Soon they will carry smaller goods into the city. One animal lowers its head sleepily. Another shakes its ears as a fly passes nearby. Their handler sits upon an overturned crate, wrapped in a cloak. He watches the workers without speaking. There is nothing for him to do until the first cargo has been inspected. So he waits. People in ancient cities spend much of their lives waiting. Waiting for ships. Waiting for customers. Waiting for water. Waiting for officials. Waiting for the season to change. Patience is not considered unusual. It is simply part of the day. You follow the waterfront. Warehouses stand in long rows beside the harbor. Their thick walls keep the interiors cool. Wooden doors are secured with iron fittings. Some buildings store grain. Others contain papyrus rolls packed inside protective containers. There are jars of perfume made from flowers, resins, and oils. Bundles of linen. Blocks of colored glass. Baskets of dates. Spices arriving from routes that stretch far beyond Egypt. Even with the doors closed, the air carries traces of their contents. Cinnamon, cedar, wine, dried fish, olive oil, grain dust, salt. The harbor has its own fragrance. Not entirely pleasant. Not entirely unpleasant. It is the smell of movement, of work, of distant places meeting one another. At the end of the quay stands a small shrine. Sailors have placed offerings there before and after their voyages. A few flowers rest beside a shallow stone bowl. Someone has left a piece of bread. Another traveler has poured a little wine upon the ground. The names of gods may differ from one sailor to another. Some pray to Poseidon, others to Isis, protector of sailors. Some speak quietly to gods known only in their homeland. The sea is beautiful, but it is never completely trusted. Before beginning a journey, even experienced sailors may pause. Touch the stone, bow their heads, ask for calm winds, ask for a safe return. A man approaches the shrine now. He is young, perhaps preparing to leave Alexandria for the first time. He places a tiny clay figure beside the flowers. For a moment, he stands without moving. Then he returns to his ship. No one watches him closely. Private hopes are common in a harbor. You leave the shrine and continue toward the city. The waterfront road widens. Tall buildings rise on either side. Their lower levels contain shops and workshops. Families live in rooms above them. Wooden shutters remain closed. Balconies project over the street. Laundry forgotten from the previous evening moves gently in the sea breeze. A single oil lamp burns above a doorway. Beneath it, a sleeping dog opens one eye as you pass, then closes it again. A night watchman walks toward you. He carries a wooden staff and a covered lantern. His duty is to watch for fire, theft, and trouble within the quiet streets. Fire is one of the greatest dangers in a crowded city. Many buildings contain timber. Lamps burn oil. Cooking fires glow inside small rooms. One careless flame can spread quickly. The watchman pauses at a corner. He looks toward the dark windows, listens, then continues his patrol. His sandals echo softly between the buildings. The sound follows him for several moments before disappearing. You reach the beginning of one of Alexandria's broad avenues. During the day, it will be filled with people. Carts will move between the columns. Merchants will call from shaded shops. Students and scribes will carry scrolls. Officials will travel with attendants. Priests will walk toward temples. Travelers will stop to ask for directions in languages the locals may not understand. But now, the avenue is nearly empty. Rows of columns stretch into the darkness. The stone pavement reflects the final light of the moon. Far away, beyond several intersections, a small group of figures moves toward the market district. They carry baskets upon their heads. Gardeners and farmers from the countryside often enter early. They want their vegetables, herbs, fruit, eggs, and flowers arranged before the first customers arrive. One woman carries fresh green onions. Another has a basket of figs. A man leads a donkey loaded with clay jars of milk. They speak quietly as they walk. Their voices are too distant to understand. Yet the tone is familiar. The gentle conversation of people who have taken the same road many times. You turn into a narrower residential street. Here, the buildings stand closer together. Inside one home, a baker has already begun working. A warm orange light escapes through a gap in the shutters. You hear the dull sound of dough being placed upon a wooden surface. Then the scrape of a tool against stone. The baker's oven must be heated before the city wakes. Bread is needed early. Workers will buy it on their way to the docks. Families will send children to collect loaves. Travelers will carry bread with them when they leave the city. Inside, the baker adds wood to the fire. Sparks rise briefly. Heat spreads through the oven chamber. A young assistant kneads dough in a large bowl. His arms move steadily. Press, fold, Turn, then press again. The flower clings to his hands and forearms. He has been awake for less than an hour, but his body already remembers the rhythm. On a nearby table, prepared loaves rest beneath linen cloths. Some are round, others are divided into sections. The smell of yeast and warm grain begins to fill the room. Soon it will reach the street. You continue onward. Another household is beginning to stir. A servant crosses a courtyard carrying a clay lamp. At the center of the home, a small pool reflects the light. A columned walkway surrounds it. The servant kneels beside a brazier and adds charcoal. The coals begin to glow. Water will soon be warmed. The household will wake. Clothing will be arranged. The floors will be swept. Food will be prepared. Doors will open to visitors, customers, students, clients, or relatives. Even wealthy homes depend upon quiet work completed before sunrise. In another building, a scribe sits beside a small table. He has not yet slept. A papyrus roll lies open before him. The flame of his lamp has grown weak. He dips a reed pen into dark ink and carefully adds the final line to a document. Perhaps it records the sale of grain. A letter, a legal agreement, a list of goods arriving at the harbor. He studies the words for a moment, then places the pen aside. Writing is slow work. Papyrus is valuable. Mistakes cannot always be corrected easily. The scribe rolls the document with care and ties it using a thin cord. Only then does he stretch his tired hands. Outside, the sky has begun to change. The darkness above the sea becomes softer. Black turns to deep blue. The stars nearest the horizon begin to disappear. From the harbor, the lighthouse still shines. Its flame remains bright, but dawn is slowly making it unnecessary. You climb a broad staircase leading toward a raised terrace. From here, the great harbor opens below you. Ships rest upon calm water. The Pharos stands at the entrance. Warehouses line the shore. Beyond them stretches the enormous city. Flat rooftops, courtyards, temples, columns, gardens hidden behind walls. The royal district lies farther along the water, quieter now than it was only a short time ago. Power has changed hands. The banners of a new ruler will appear. Officials will learn new names. Coins will carry new faces. But the city itself does not awaken for rulers. It awakens because bread must be baked. Water must be carried. Ships must be unloaded. Children must be fed. Records must be written. And the harbor must remain open to the world. A pale line of gold appears above the sea. The first sunlight touches the highest part of the lighthouse. For a moment, the tower glows against the dark city. Then the light moves downward, across its stone walls, across the island of Pharos, across the masts of the ships. The harbor water changes from black to blue. The lanterns along the quay begin to look dim. Workers extinguish them one by one. A flock of seabirds rises from the breakwater. Their wings catch the sunlight. They circle above the harbor before diving toward the fishing boats below. The city responds quickly. Shutters open. Doors move upon their hinges. Voices appear in the streets. A cart begins rolling over the stone road. The donkeys beside the quay are loaded with baskets. The baker removes the first loaves from the oven. Warm fragrance drifts between the buildings. A temple door opens. A fountain begins receiving its first visitors. The darkness retreats into courtyards and narrow passageways. Alexandria is awake. From the terrace, you watch sunlight spread across the entire city. It touches Greek columns and Egyptian temples, merchant ships and fishermen's boats, elegant homes and crowded apartments, gardens, workshops, shrines, and markets. The same light belongs to everyone. Behind you, footsteps begin filling the avenue. Ahead, the harbor grows louder. Another day has begun in one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. A city of sailors and scholars, merchants and priests, craftsmen and travelers. A city where the Nile meets the Mediterranean, and where nearly every street carries a story from somewhere far away. Slowly, you leave the terrace. The market district is beginning to open. The smell of bread grows stronger. And beyond the next row of columns, the morning life of ancient Alexandria is waiting. Beyond the next row of columns, the morning market of Alexandria slowly opens before you. At first, the street is still spacious. Only a few merchants have arrived. Wooden shutters are being lifted. Canvas awnings are pulled outward above narrow shopfronts. Baskets are placed carefully upon low tables. Clay jars are carried from storage rooms hidden behind the walls. The city has awakened, but the market has not yet reached its busiest hour. For now, there is room to walk slowly, room to notice each sound, each fragrance, each small act of preparation. The broad avenue beneath your feet is one of Alexandria's main roads. Its stone surface runs straight through the city, passing temples, workshops, public buildings, residential quarters, and gardens concealed behind high walls. Rows of columns line parts of the avenue. Their pale surfaces catch the early sunlight. Long shadows stretch across the road, creating alternating bands of brightness and shade. A cart moves slowly between them. Its wooden wheels turn with a gentle creak. The driver sits at the front, wrapped in a light cloak against the cool morning air. Behind him are baskets filled with green vegetables gathered outside the city. Leeks, onions, cabbages, herbs tied together with thin pieces of reed. The cart stops beside a market stall. A woman waiting there lifts one basket with practiced ease. She examines the vegetables. The leaves are fresh. The onions are firm. She nods. A price is discussed quietly. Several bronze coins pass from one hand to another. The first sale of the day is complete. Nearby, a fruit seller spreads a woven mat across a stone platform. He arranges dates into neat piles. Dark figs are placed beside pale melons. Pomegranates rest in shallow baskets, their red skins glowing in the morning sun. Some fruit has traveled only a short distance from gardens along the Nile. Other produce has arrived through long networks of farmers, boatmen, porters, and merchants. Every object in the market has followed a path. Every jar, every loaf, every piece of cloth. The market is where those paths meet. A young boy helps his father arrange small clay cups beside a large vessel of water. The cups are simple, roughly shaped, made for daily use rather than beauty. Water will be sold to travelers, workers, and merchants who spend hours beneath the Egyptian sun. The boy fills one cup and places it near the edge of the stall. A dockworker passing by leaves a coin. He drinks slowly, then returns the cup without speaking. The exchange takes only a moment. Both continue with their morning. Farther along the street, a baker has opened his shop. The loaves prepared before sunrise now cover wooden shelves. Some are round and flat. Others have been shaped into rings. Several contain sesame seeds. A few have been sweetened with dates or honey. Warm air escapes from the doorway. The fragrance of fresh bread spreads quickly through the market. It mingles with olive oil, herbs, fruit, and smoke from small cooking fires. People begin turning their heads toward the bakery before they even see it. A woman approaches carrying a small basket. The baker selects 2 loaves and wraps them in a piece of cloth. The woman adds a handful of small onions to her purchase. Perhaps the bread will be eaten with cheese. Perhaps dipped into lentil soup. Perhaps carried to a workshop where someone will eat while continuing to work. Bread is present in nearly every household, at every social level. Its quality may differ. Its ingredients may change, but its place in the daily rhythm remains constant. Beside the bakery, a cook prepares a simple morning meal for laborers. A wide bronze pan rests above glowing charcoal. Inside, lentils simmer slowly with herbs and onions. The cook stirs them using a long wooden spoon. Steam rises into the cool air. A second vessel contains a thick porridge made from grain. Customers stand nearby holding clay bowls. They do not sit for long. The harbor is busy. Warehouses are opening. Ships are waiting. There is always more work to be done. Yet even hurried people must pause to eat. You continue deeper into the market. The number of voices grows. Greek is spoken at one stall, Egyptian at another. A merchant from the Eastern Mediterranean calls to a companion in a language unfamiliar to you. A Roman official gives instructions to an assistant. A Jewish family discusses the price of cloth. Sailors use gestures when words fail. Alexandria does not belong to a single voice. It is a city built from many of them. The languages overlap. They rise and fall. Sometimes they seem to compete. At other moments, they blend into a single steady murmur. Like water flowing over stones. A spice merchant begins opening small wooden boxes. Each contains a different fragrance. Cumin, coriander, cinnamon, black pepper, dried mint, resins used in perfume and incense. Some have traveled along the Nile. Others arrived through ports far beyond Egypt. A few may have passed through many hands before reaching this table. The merchant lifts the lid of one container. A warm, sweet fragrance escapes. A customer leans closer. She closes her eyes briefly, then asks for a small amount. The spice is weighed upon a balanced scale. Tiny bronze weights are placed on one side. The precious powder rests upon the other. The scale moves, rises, falls, finally settles. The merchant wraps the spice inside folded papyrus. Every grain is valuable. None is allowed to spill. Across the lane, a perfumer works beneath a shaded awning. Small stone and glass bottles stand in orderly rows. Some are clear. Others are blue, green, or amber. The bottles are narrow at the neck to prevent precious oils from escaping too quickly. Inside them are fragrances made from flowers, herbs, resins, and spices. Rose, lily, myrrh, frankincense, cypress, cinnamon. The perfumer places a single drop of oil upon a customer's wrist. She raises it toward her face. The scent unfolds slowly in the warmth of her skin. A second customer waits beside her. He is not buying perfume for himself. Perhaps it is a gift. Perhaps an offering, perhaps something intended for a household shrine. Fragrance has many uses in Alexandria. It belongs to temples, homes, funerals, celebrations, bathing, medicine, and quiet personal rituals repeated at the beginning of each day. The glass bottles themselves are works of skilled craftsmanship. Alexandria is famous for glass. Artisans shape molten material into vessels, beads, bowls, and decorative objects. Some pieces imitate precious stone. Others catch the sunlight with remarkable clarity. The glass seller beside the perfumer lifts a small blue bottle and turns it gently. Light passes through the surface. A bright reflection moves across the wall behind him. For a moment, the entire stall glows with the color of deep water. You stop to watch. The artisan notices your interest. He gestures toward the bottle with quiet pride. It is small enough to fit inside the palm of your hand. Yet it may have required years of experience to create. The furnace must reach intense heat. The mixture must be prepared correctly. The glass must be shaped before it cools. Too much force, and it collapses. Too little, and the form is lost. The finished object contains both fire and patience. The market grows busier. A group of sailors enters from the harbor carrying pay earned during their journey. They move from stall to stall, examining knives, leather sandals, dried food, and small charms. One sailor purchases a new woolen cloak. Another chooses a carved figure of Isis. A third spends several moments studying a bronze oil lamp shaped like a bird. He eventually places it back on the table. Perhaps the price is too high. Perhaps he remembers there will be many other ports before he returns home. Travel teaches people to carry less than they desire. Near the center of the market, several money changers sit behind narrow tables. Coins from many regions pass through Alexandria. Greek silver, Egyptian bronze, Roman denarii. Older coins still accepted according to their weight. A merchant arriving from overseas may carry money unfamiliar to local sellers. The money changer examines each coin carefully. He weighs it, checks its surface, studies the face stamped into the metal. Some coins carry the image of rulers who are no longer alive. Others represent cities far across the sea. The value of a coin depends not only upon the picture it carries, but upon the metal inside it. A traveler places several pieces of silver upon the table. The changer tests one with a small mark. The sound of metal against stone is brief and clear. He calculates the exchange, then pushes a different group of coins forward. The traveler counts them twice. Trust is useful, but counting is safer. Nearby, a public scribe has taken his place beneath a covered walkway. His table is modest. A reed pen, a small container of ink, wax tablets, several rolls of papyrus protected inside a wooden box. Many people in the market can recognize signs, numbers, and familiar words. Some can read fluently, others cannot, but almost everyone at some point may need something written. A contract, a letter, a receipt, a list of goods, a message carried to another city. The scribe offers his skill to anyone able to pay. An elderly woman sits before him now. She speaks slowly while he listens. Her son may be serving aboard a ship. Perhaps he lives in another part of Egypt. Perhaps she has not seen him for many months. The scribe dips his reed pen into the ink. He begins to write. The woman pauses between sentences. She thinks carefully. Words spoken aloud can disappear. Words placed upon papyrus may travel farther than she ever will. The scribe does not hurry her. He waits, adds another line, then reads the message back. The woman corrects a small detail. A name, a place, something only she would notice. The letter is rolled and tied. She holds it gently. For now, it is only papyrus and ink. But to the person who receives it, it may feel like home. You continue beneath the colonnade. A cloth merchant has begun hanging dyed fabrics from a wooden frame. White linen catches the sunlight. So do pieces colored with red, yellow, green, and soft blue. Egyptian linen is admired for its lightness. In the summer heat, heavy clothing can become uncomfortable. Fine linen allows air to move across the skin. The most delicate cloth is expensive. It may be purchased by wealthy households, priests, or officials. Coarser fabric is used by workers and ordinary families. The merchant rubs a piece between his fingers, demonstrating its quality. A customer holds it toward the light. She examines the weave. No sale is made yet. The discussion continues. Beside the cloth stall, a seamstress works while waiting for customers. A torn tunic rests across her lap. She threads a needle through the fabric, pulls the cord tight, then repeats the movement. Clothing is repaired again and again. A garment may pass from one member of a family to another. It may be shortened for a child, patched at the elbows, reinforced along the hem. Fabric requires labor to produce. Good cloth is not thrown away simply because it has aged. The repaired tunic may continue to be worn for years. A little farther ahead, the street opens into a wider square. Here, larger goods are displayed. Potters have arranged bowls, jars, lamps, plates, and cooking vessels upon the ground. The shapes are familiar, but no two pieces are exactly alike. Some have been painted with simple lines. Others carry images of birds, ships, plants, or gods. Most are practical objects intended for kitchens and storerooms. A family examines a large storage jar. The mother looks inside. The father checks the handles. Their daughter taps the side lightly and listens to the sound. The potter smiles. Perhaps she has seen adults do the same. A cracked jar is useless for storing oil or wine. The sound can reveal hidden weakness. The family chooses another vessel. The potter wraps cloth around its base before placing it inside their cart. One broken object avoided. Many years of use gained. Behind the pottery stalls, metalworkers display their goods. Iron tools, bronze lamps, small knives, needles, hooks, logs, hinges, cooking utensils. A blacksmith demonstrates the edge of a newly sharpened blade upon a piece of reed. The reed separates cleanly. The customer nods with approval. Tools are not decorations. They are extensions of the hand. A dull knife slows every task. A weak hinge threatens every door. A broken hook may delay work upon a ship. The market depends upon objects that perform quietly and reliably. No one writes poems about hinges, yet cities cannot function without them. The sun climbs higher. The cool blue light of early morning is replaced by warmer gold. Merchants adjust their awnings to create more shade. Children carry cups of water between stalls. Donkeys move through the crowd with baskets tied along their sides. Their handlers call gently for people to make space. A Roman soldier passes at the edge of the square. His presence attracts a few glances. The political world of Alexandria has changed. Rome now controls Egypt. New officials have arrived. New rules are being discussed. New taxes will be counted. But the market does not stop to consider history for very long. A customer wants fish. A sailor needs rope. A baker requires grain. Whatever rulers decide, ordinary needs remain. At a fish stall, the morning catch has been arranged upon beds of wet reeds. Mullet, sea bass, small silver fish sold in handfuls. Shellfish gathered near the coast. The seller splashes water over them to keep them cool. A cook from a wealthy household inspects the largest fish. He checks the eyes, the gills, the firmness of the flesh. He asks when it was caught. The seller answers immediately. Before moonset, near the western breakwater. The cook considers this, then chooses 2 fish and several smaller ones. The purchase will become part of an evening meal in a home you may never see. The seller wraps the fish in broad leaves. The cook's assistant carries them away. The smaller fish remain for ordinary customers. Some will be salted, some dried, some cooked today with onions and herbs. From a nearby stall comes a much stronger fragrance. Fish sauce is stored inside sealed amphorae. The fermented liquid is used to add flavor to many meals across the Mediterranean. Only a small amount is needed. The seller removes a stopper and allows a customer to smell the contents. The reaction is uncertain. The seller laughs softly. Not every valuable product is pleasant when first encountered. Near the edge of the market, farmers sell eggs, cheese, and milk. The cheese is made in small rounds. Some is fresh and mild. Other pieces have been salted and aged. A shepherd has brought several containers from land beyond the city. His sandals are dusty. His face is darkened by the sun. He looks slightly uncomfortable among the tall buildings and crowded streets. The countryside follows a different rhythm. There people recognize one another. Here every corner reveals another stranger. Still, Alexandria offers customers he cannot find in a small village. The shepherd accepts payment for 2 rounds of cheese. He places the coins inside a cloth pouch tied beneath his belt. He will remain until most of his goods are sold. Then return along the road before nightfall. A flower seller walks between the stalls carrying garlands over both arms. Lotus blossoms, roses, violets, small branches of greenery. The flowers may decorate homes, shrines, banquets, funerary offerings, temple ceremonies. A young man purchases a simple garland. The seller hands it to him with a smile. He holds it carefully above the crowd so the petals are not damaged. Where he is taking it remains unknown. The market is filled with unfinished stories. A gift being carried. A letter waiting to be sent. A jar chosen for a new household. Bread purchased for workers. Coins saved for a journey. Every person moves with a purpose, even when that purpose is invisible to everyone else. You leave the busiest part of the square and enter a lane filled with quieter shops. The sounds of bargaining soften behind you. Here, booksellers and papyrus merchants work beneath shaded porticos. Bundles of papyrus sheets are stacked inside dry rooms. The papyrus plant grows in the wetlands of Egypt. Its inner stalk is cut into strips. The strips are laid in crossing layers. Breast, dried, smoothed, and joined into sheets. Several sheets may be attached to form a long roll. The finished material carries poems, laws, letters, calculations, medical knowledge, religious texts, stories, and records of trade. Alexandria produces and consumes enormous amounts of writing. A papyrus seller holds a sheet toward the light. The pale fibers create faint horizontal and vertical lines. The surface is smooth, but not completely uniform. A scribe can feel the texture beneath the reed pen. High-quality sheets are expensive. Lower grades are used for ordinary accounts and messages. Even damaged papyrus may be reused. Old writing can be washed away or covered. The other side may receive new words. Writing materials are too valuable to waste. Inside the neighboring shop, a bookseller has placed several scrolls inside round containers. Small labels identify their contents. Poetry, philosophy, medicine, mathematics, history, plays performed generations earlier. The shop is not silent. Two customers discuss which version of a text is more accurate. A young student listens closely. He cannot afford either scroll, but he remains near enough to hear the conversation. Knowledge often travels through open doors. The bookseller notices him. Instead of sending him away, he gestures toward a small stool. The student sits. Perhaps he has visited before. Perhaps he helps clean the shop in exchange for time spent reading. Alexandria attracts people who believe words can reveal the structure of the world. Astronomers watch the sky. Geographers compare accounts of distant lands. Doctors study the human body. Mathematicians search for patterns that remain true everywhere. Poets search for different kinds of truth. The market sells food for the body. And along this quiet lane, material for the mind. A copyist works in the back of the shop. A scroll lies open before him. He reads a line, then carefully reproduces it upon fresh papyrus. His eyes move between the original and the copy. Every mark matters. One missing word can change meaning. One repeated line can confuse a reader. Copying is an act of patience. The copyist may never meet the person who wrote the original text. He may never know the person who will read his copy. Yet his careful hand connects them. Outside, the market continues growing louder. The city has fully entered the day. Sunlight reaches the highest balconies. Shadows retreat beneath the awnings. The harbor bells and workers' calls can still be heard from a distance. A ship has arrived. Another is preparing to leave. Mori goods will enter the market before noon. Mori coins will be exchanged. Mori languages will cross the same square. You stand for a moment beneath the shade of the portico. Behind you are spices, bread, perfume, metal, glass, fruit, fish, flowers, and cloth. Before you are papyrus shops and the distant route leading toward the scholarly heart of Alexandria. The city offers many forms of wealth. Some can be eaten, some worn, some poured into a lamp, some stored inside a jar, and some exist only as ideas preserved in ink. A warm breeze travels inland from the sea. It moves through the hanging fabrics, turns the pages of an open notebook, carries the smell of bread and spice into the papyrus shop. The bookseller secures a loose label before it blows away. The student smiles. The copyist continues writing. And somewhere farther along the avenue, beyond gardens, temples, and quiet courtyards, the scholars of Alexandria are beginning their own morning. You leave the market behind. The sound of many voices slowly fades. Ahead, tall columns rise around a peaceful complex of halls, walkways, and gardens. A place where people gather not to sell grain or glass, but to study the stars, the earth, the body, numbers, language, and time itself. The market has shown you what Alexandria receives from the world. Now, you are about to discover what the city gives back. The voices of the market slowly fade behind you. The cries of merchants become softer. The scent of warm bread and spices grows distant. Ahead, the avenue becomes quieter. The crowds thin. The buildings are set farther apart. Tall walls conceal gardens, courtyards, lecture halls, and shaded walkways belonging to the scholarly heart of Alexandria. Here, the city moves according to a different rhythm. The harbor measures time by the arrival of ships. The market measures it through customers and coins. But in this part of Alexandria, time is measured in questions. How far away are the stars? Why does the Nile rise? What makes a fever grow stronger? How large is the earth? How can a line be divided perfectly? What remains true in every language and every kingdom? Questions such as these have drawn scholars to Alexandria for generations. Some have traveled from Greece, others from Egypt, Asia Minor, Syria, North Africa, and islands scattered across the Mediterranean. They arrive carrying letters of introduction, mathematical diagrams, medical observations, fragments of poetry, astronomical records, and stories heard in distant ports. Some come hopping to teach. Others come to listen. Many arrive simply because Alexandria possesses something rare. A place where curiosity itself is considered valuable. You walk beneath a broad stone gateway. Beyond it lies a peaceful courtyard surrounded by columns. The noise of the city almost disappears. A shallow pool rests at the center. Its surface reflects the morning sky. Papyrus plants grow along one side, their tall green stems rising above the water. Doves move between the columns. The sound of their wings echoes softly across the stone. Several scholars walk beneath the covered portico. They wear simple linen or woolen garments. A few carry scrolls beneath their arms. Others carry wax tablets tied together with cord. One man speaks while three younger students follow beside him. He does not stand behind a desk. There is no formal beginning to the lesson. He simply walks and explains. The students listen carefully. Occasionally, one asks a question. The teacher stops, draws a shape into a thin layer of sand beside the path. A circle, a straight line, another line crossing the first. He points toward the figure using a reed. The students lean closer. The discussion continues. Mathematics in Alexandria is not merely about counting coins or measuring fields. It is a search for relationships that remain true everywhere. A triangle drawn in Egypt follows the same principles as one drawn in Greece. A circle does not change because a king changes. Numbers do not care which language names them. For many scholars, this is part of their beauty. You pause near the edge of the group. The teacher draws another line through the circle. He asks the students to consider the space between the center and the outer edge. One student answers too quickly. The teacher smiles. He wipes part of the drawing away with his sandal, then begins again. Mistakes are not treated as failure. They reveal where thought must slow down. The students watch more carefully this time. Their lesson continues beneath the shade of the columns. Across the courtyard stands a long hall. Its doors are open. Inside, shelves and wooden cabinets hold papyrus scrolls. Some are stored horizontally. Others stand inside clay or wooden containers. Small labels hang from their ends so that readers can identify them without unrolling each one. The room is cool and dry. Sunlight is limited. Too much heat, dampness, or careless handling can damage papyrus. The people responsible for these collections understand that knowledge is fragile. A scroll may survive for generations or disappear because of water, insects, fire, or neglect. Preservation requires constant work. Inside the hall, an attendant receives a scroll from a visiting scholar. The traveler explains where it came from. A city across the sea. The work is written in Greek, though parts may have been translated from an older text. The attendant examines the outer surface. He studies the label, then records the title upon a wax tablet. The scroll will not simply be placed upon a shelf. It must be compared, catalogued, perhaps copied, perhaps corrected. There may already be another version inside the collection, and the two may not agree. Ancient texts change as they travel. A copyist may miss a line. A word may be replaced. An unfamiliar name may be misunderstood. Sometimes a reader adds a note in the margin. Later, another copyist may mistake that note for part of the original work. Over time, a single text may exist in several forms. The scholars of Alexandria try to compare them, not because they believe every question has an easy answer, but because careful comparison may bring them closer to the words that were first written. At a nearby table, two men study different copies of the same poem. One reads a line aloud. The other follows the words on his own scroll. They stop. A phrase is different. One version uses a word meaning storm. The other uses a word meaning darkness. The difference is small, yet it changes the image completely. They discuss which version may be older. One points toward the rhythm of the sentence. The other mentions a quotation preserved by another writer. Neither raises his voice. The disagreement is patient. Even poetry can become an investigation. Farther inside the hall, a librarian moves slowly between the shelves. He knows the collection not only by title, but by place. History in one section, medicine in another. Poetry, drama, astronomy, philosophy, law, and geography arranged according to systems developed over many years. The collection is too large for any single person to remember completely. So lists are created. Names of authors, opening lines, subjects, lengths, origins. A library of this scale requires another library simply to describe it. The librarian carries a wooden tablet filled with small marks. A reader has requested a work on the movements of the moon. He searches among the labels, stops, checks the tablet, then selects a scroll container and carries it carefully toward a reading room. Inside that room, scholars sit on benches beside low tables. The space is not completely silent. Ancient reading is often spoken aloud. Words are heard as well as seen. A reader murmurs quietly while following lines of dark ink across pale papyrus. Another dictates notes to an assistant. Two students whisper over a difficult passage. The combined sound is gentle, a low murmur of voices and turning scrolls. Knowledge here is not silent. It breathes. A scholar near the window studies a work about distant lands. Beside him rests a rough map drawn upon papyrus. The Mediterranean occupies the center. Coastlines stretch outward. Rivers, islands, and cities are marked with small symbols. Some regions are carefully described. Others remain uncertain. The edges of the known world fade into rumor. Travelers speak of deserts without end, mountains covered in snow, forests so dense that sunlight barely reaches the ground, lands where the summer day lasts far longer than in Egypt. The scholar compares written accounts from sailors and merchants. One claims a journey required 12 days. Another says 9. Wind, current, and memory make distance difficult to measure. He places a mark upon the map, then hesitates. He wipes it away. Certainty is rare when knowledge depends upon travelers. Yet Alexandria receives more travelers than almost any city in the region. Every arriving ship brings information. A new coastline, a different current, a rumor of a city beyond another sea. The harbor does not only bring grain, glass, and spices. It brings descriptions of the world. You leave the reading hall and enter another courtyard. This one is smaller. A sundial stands in the center. Its bronze shadow falls across marked stone. An astronomer kneels beside it with a wax tablet. He notes the position carefully. The measurement seems simple. A shadow, a line, a time of day. Yet repeated observations can reveal patterns that extend far beyond the courtyard. The changing height of the sun, the length of seasons, the movement of celestial bodies, the relationship between shadow and distance. Near the wall, several instruments rest upon a wooden table. Measuring rods, circles marked with degrees, simple sighting devices, a basin designed to track the passing of time through flowing water. The tools are modest. The questions are enormous. A young assistant pours water into the upper vessel of a water clock. A thin stream passes through a small opening. The level drops slowly. Marks inside the container divide the passage of time. Water clocks are imperfect. Temperature, pressure, and the shape of the vessel affect the flow. Still, they allow intervals to be measured when sunlight is unavailable. At night, inside buildings, during cloudy weather, the assistant watches the water. The astronomer watches the shadow. Both are trying to give shape to something that cannot be held. Time. Above them, the sky appears completely ordinary. Pale blue, cloudless, a few birds moving toward the harbor. Yet the astronomer knows the sky is full of repeating motion. The sun rises at different points through the year. The moon changes shape. Planets wander against the background of fixed stars. Some movements are regular. Others appear confusing. Generations of observers have recorded them. Babylonian scholars created long lists of celestial events. Egyptian priests watched the heavens to organize ritual and agriculture. Greek thinkers built geometrical models to explain what they saw. Alexandria brings these traditions together. The astronomer opens a scroll covered with columns of numbers. He compares the old observations with the present day. A student asks why the planets sometimes seem to move backward. The astronomer does not answer immediately. He looks upward, then toward the diagrams on the table. He begins moving small wooden circles across a marked board. The model is not the sky itself. It is an attempt to understand the sky. The distinction matters. A model can be useful and still be incomplete. You continue beneath another colonnade. A physician is teaching in a shaded room overlooking a garden. Bundles of dried herbs hang from hooks along the wall. Clay jars contain oils, resins, roots, and powdered minerals. A bronze basin rests beside a low wooden table. The air carries the scent of mint, vinegar, and bitter plants. Several students stand nearby. The physician holds a small branch in one hand. He crushes its leaves between his fingers, then allows each student to smell them. He explains how the plant may be prepared. Steeped in water, mixed with honey, ground into a paste, applied to the skin. Not every treatment works. Some help only occasionally. Others are inherited from traditions too old to trace. Medicine in Alexandria contains observation, experience, belief, and uncertainty in equal measure. The physician encourages his students to pay attention to the color of the skin, the speed of breathing, the location of pain, the appearance of the eyes, the timing of a fever, the food a patient has eaten, the water they drink, the season, the neighborhood where they live. Illness is not always understood, but careful observation may reveal patterns. A young woman sits near the doorway holding her wrist. She has come to seek treatment. The physician finishes speaking with the students and approaches her. He asks several questions. How long has the pain lasted? Was there an injury? Does the hand feel weak? He gently moves her fingers, presses along the wrist. The woman winces at one point. The physician nods. He prepares a strip of linen and a small wooden support. The wrist is wrapped carefully. A mixture of oil and herbs is applied first. The treatment is simple. Rest, support, time. Many ancient remedies are complex. Others depend upon the same quiet patience used centuries later. The physician's assistant writes a brief note upon a tablet. Not every patient is recorded. Not every observation survives. But some physicians collect cases. They compare symptoms, remember what helped and what did not. Knowledge grows not only from success, but from recognizing repeated failure. Beyond the medical room lies a garden used for study. Plants from different regions grow in organized beds. Local herbs, imported flowers, trees valued for bark, fruit, shade, or resin. A gardener moves slowly between them, carrying a clay watering vessel. He knows which plants require full sunlight, which prefer shade, which survive in dry soil, which weaken when exposed to sea wind. The scholars may write about plants, but the gardener keeps them alive. His hands are dark with soil. His knowledge is practical. He may not describe a plant in the language of philosophy, yet he knows when its leaves are beginning to yellow, when its roots require more space, when seeds should be collected. The scholarly complex depends upon many people whose names will never appear upon a scroll. Gardeners, cleaners, cooks, attendants, messengers, copyists, workers who repair roofs and carry water, servants who prepare lamps before evening. Knowledge does not exist separately from daily labor. Every quiet hall remains quiet because someone swept it. Every scroll stays dry because someone repaired a cracked wall. Every scholar eats because someone prepared food. Near midday, a bell sounds within the complex. It is smaller than a temple bell. Its tone is clear. Scholars begin leaving the halls and walking toward a communal dining room. The Museion is not only a collection of scrolls. It is a community. Those supported by the institution may eat together. They discuss work, share news, argue, compare observations. A question raised over bread and olives may return later inside a lecture hall. You follow at a distance. The dining room opens onto another courtyard. Low tables hold simple food. Bread, olives, cheese, dates, fresh herbs, lentils, fish preserved with salt, water mixed with a little wine. The meal is comfortable but not extravagant. Men from different fields sit beside one another. A physician shares a table with a geometer. A poet listens to an astronomer. A grammarian corrects the pronunciation of a place name mentioned by a traveler. The traveler insists that people from the region pronounce it differently. The grammarian looks unconvinced. The poet laughs. For a brief moment, the great house of knowledge feels like any busy household. People interrupt. Someone reaches across the table for bread. A cup is nearly knocked over. A younger scholar remains quiet while older voices fill the room. Not every conversation is profound. One man complains about the heat. Another says the harbor fish have become too expensive. A third wonders whether the new Roman administration will continue supporting the scholarly community. The question changes the mood. Only briefly. Alexandria is now under Roman control. The future of many institutions is uncertain. Some scholars hope little will change. Rome values Egyptian grain, commerce, administration, and useful knowledge. Others are less certain. Power can support learning. Power can also redirect it. The scholars cannot know what decisions will be made in distant rooms. So they return to the work before them. A calculation, a patient, a text, a map, the things they can still examine. At the far end of the dining room, an elderly scholar speaks quietly to a young student. The student looks discouraged. A scroll lies between them, covered with corrections. Perhaps his argument has failed. Perhaps his translation contains mistakes. The elderly man breaks a piece of bread and places half beside the student. Then he points toward one line on the papyrus. They speak for several minutes. The student listens, nods, unrolls the text farther, begins again. Learning often looks less like sudden discovery and more like returning to the same problem with greater patience. After the meal, the halls slowly fill once more. Some scholars return to writing. Others walk in the gardens. The afternoon light becomes stronger. White stone reflects the sun. The shaded porticos grow especially inviting. You follow a corridor leading toward a room where copyists work. The room contains long tables arranged near high windows. Dozens of papyrus sheets lie beneath small stone weights. The sound of reed pens fills the air. Scratch, pause, dip, scratch again. Each copyist works from an existing text. Some reproduce administrative records. Others copy poetry, scientific works, or religious writings. A supervisor walks between the tables. He checks spacing, handwriting, margins, the quality of the papyrus. A badly copied document wastes both time and material. One copyist pauses to sharpen the end of his reed pen. He cuts it with a small knife, splits the tip, tests it upon a scrap of papyrus. The first line is too thick. He adjusts the angle, tries again. The second line is smooth. He returns to the scroll. The text before him concerns geometry. Diagrams appear between sections of writing. Straight lines must remain straight. Angles must be clear. A careless curve could make the explanation difficult to understand. Beside him, another copyist works on a medical text. The writing describes symptoms and treatments. One missing word might change a dosage. Accuracy matters differently here. The supervisor compares the fresh copy with the original. He notices an error. The copyist has repeated a short phrase. The mistake is marked. A correction will be added. Even in the most careful room in Alexandria, human attention wanders. The institution accepts this. What matters is creating methods to find the errors. At another table, a translator works with two assistants. The original text is written in Egyptian script. The new version is being prepared in Greek. Translation is more than replacing one word with another. Some ideas do not cross languages easily. A term may refer to a ritual, object, or custom unfamiliar to the new reader. Should it be translated? Explained? Preserved in its original form? The translator discusses the choice with his assistants. One favors a Greek word with a similar meaning. The other argues that the original should remain. They test the sentence aloud. The rhythm changes. So does the meaning. Every translation becomes a bridge. But every bridge changes the path. You leave the copyists and climb a stone staircase toward an upper terrace. The view opens suddenly. Alexandria stretches in every direction. The broad avenues divide the city into long sections. The great harbor shines beneath the afternoon sun. Merchant ships appear between the breakwaters. The island of Pharos rests beyond them. The lighthouse rises above the sea. Its fire is difficult to see in daylight. Yet the tower remains impossible to ignore. To the south, the city extends toward Lake Merotes and the routes leading deeper into Egypt. Goods arriving from the Nile move northward. Goods from the Mediterranean move south. Alexandria stands between worlds. On the terrace, an astronomer has placed a measuring rod beside the wall. He watches the shadow cast at midday. Another scholar studies the angle. They compare it with measurements made in a southern city. The difference in shadow may reveal something astonishing. The shape and size of the earth itself. Long before this day, scholars connected with Alexandria used sunlight and distance to estimate the circumference of the world. Not perfectly, but with remarkable insight. The earth is too large to walk around easily. Yet its size can be approached through geometry. A shadow in one city, another shadow farther south. The distance between them, an angle, a calculation. The world can be measured without seeing all of it. You look across the rooftops. From this height, Alexandria feels enormous. But the scholars know it is only one point upon a much larger sphere. The thought is both humbling and comforting. The city may be great. The lighthouse may seem taller than anything else. The library may contain more words than one person can read in a lifetime. Yet the world remains larger. The sky larger still. A breeze rises from the sea. It moves across the terrace. The scholar places a small weight upon the corner of his papyrus. Below, the city continues without noticing the calculation. Carts move through the avenues. Bread is sold. Children carry water. Sailors repair ropes. A physician wraps another injured hand. A copyist corrects another repeated line. Knowledge does not stop ordinary life. It grows inside it. The afternoon begins to soften. The scholars gather their instruments. Scrolls are returned to containers. Ink vessels are covered. Windows are adjusted to protect the rooms from dust and evening moisture. The attendants begin checking lamps for later use. The scholarly complex will not close completely at sunset. Some readers prefer the quiet hours of evening. Some calculations refuse to end because the light has faded. And astronomers often begin their most important work only after the stars appear. You descend from the terrace. The courtyard pool now reflects a brighter sky. The students who studied geometry in the morning have returned. Their diagram in the sand is more complex. The teacher is no longer drawing. One student holds the reed. He explains the solution while the others listen. The teacher stands at the edge of the group. Silent. The lesson has passed from one voice to another. You continue toward the outer gate. Behind you are halls filled with scrolls, instruments, questions, arguments, and careful hands. Not every idea created here will survive. Some texts will disappear. Some discoveries will be forgotten and later found again. Some conclusions will prove incorrect. But the work still matters, because knowledge is not a perfect treasure placed safely upon a shelf. It is a conversation. One person observes, another records, another doubts, another corrects, another carries the idea somewhere new. Alexandria has gathered voices from across the ancient world. Inside these halls, those voices speak to one another. You step back onto the avenue. The city sounds return gradually. Cartwheels, distant sellers, sandals upon stone. The call of seabirds from the harbor. Ahead, the afternoon sun shines upon temples and monuments where Alexandria's Greek and Egyptian traditions stand side by side. The scholars have shown you how the city studies the world. Now, the sacred places of Alexandria will reveal how its people try to understand what lies beyond it. The scholarly quarter slowly recedes behind you. The quiet murmur of readers fades beneath the growing sounds of the afternoon city. Cartwheels move along the broad avenue. Merchants close the awnings above their stalls against the strongest sunlight. Water sellers pass between shaded doorways, carrying clay vessels balanced carefully against their hips. Alexandria is fully awake now. Yet the street ahead feels different from the market and the harbor. The buildings become more ceremonial. Stone steps rise above the roadway. Columns stand farther apart. Painted walls display symbols older than the city itself. The sacred heart of Alexandria begins where two worlds meet. Greek forms appear beside Egyptian traditions. Marble columns support entrances decorated with lotus flowers. Statues wear Greek robes while carrying symbols associated with the Nile. Names change from one language to another. A god known in a household by one title may be praised inside a temple by several more. For the people of Alexandria, this mixture is not always strange. It is part of daily life. The city was founded upon Egyptian soil. Its streets were planned in the Greek style. Its harbor welcomes the entire Mediterranean. Now Roman authority watches over it. Every ruler brings new officials, new images, and new ceremonies. But faith does not move as quickly as government. People continue praying to the gods who protected their parents. Sailors continue leaving offerings before dangerous journeys. Mothers continue asking for the health of their children. Farmers continue watching the Nile. The names of rulers change. Human hopes remain familiar. You follow the avenue uphill. Ahead, a large sanctuary rises above the surrounding district. Its stairway is broad. The walls glow pale beneath the afternoon sun. From the upper platform, tall columns frame a dark entrance. The temple is dedicated to Serapis, a god created from several traditions and embraced as a powerful guardian of Alexandria. To some worshippers, Serapis is connected with the fertility of Egypt and the mystery of the afterlife. To others, he carries qualities associated with Greek gods of healing, abundance, and the underworld. His image reflects the city itself. Different ideas brought together. Not erased. Not completely separated. Joined into something new. The lower steps are busy but not crowded. A family climbs slowly toward the sanctuary. The father carries a small basket. Inside are bread, fruit, and flowers. A woman walking beside him holds the hand of a young child. The child looks upward at the enormous columns. For someone so small, the temple must appear endless. The steps rise like a stone mountain. The figures at the top seem almost to touch the sky. Nearby, an elderly man rests halfway up the staircase. He leans against the wall and catches his breath. A younger relative waits beside him without impatience. They have come for a reason important enough to make the climb slowly. Perhaps to ask for healing. Perhaps to fulfill a promise made during illness. Perhaps simply to give thanks for another year of life. You begin climbing. The stone beneath your sandals is warm. At each level, the view across Alexandria becomes wider. The harbor appears between rooftops. The Lighthouse of Pharos rises beyond the distant masts. The scholarly halls are partially hidden behind gardens and walls. The market is now only a collection of awnings and moving figures far below. Near the top, the scent of incense reaches you. It arrives gently. Myrrh, frankincense, cedar, sweet smoke drifting from bronze burners near the entrance. The fragrance settles into clothing and hair. It follows worshippers inside. A priest stands beneath the portico. His linen garment is bright against the dark doorway. His head is closely shaved, according to Egyptian religious custom. Beside him, another attendant wears a Greek-style robe. The two speak quietly. Their different clothing reflects different traditions. Their work serves the same sanctuary. A visitor approaches carrying a clay lamp. The priest listens as the visitor speaks, then gestures toward a side altar. The lamp is placed there among many others. Some are simple and inexpensive. Others are decorated with flowers, animals, or divine symbols. Each flame represents a private request, a safe journey, a healed body, a successful birth, the return of someone who has been away too long. The lamps do not reveal the stories of those who lit them. They simply burn together. You pass beneath the temple entrance. The afternoon brightness disappears behind you. Inside, the air is cooler. Massive columns rise into shadow. Their surfaces are painted with bands of deep red, blue, green, and gold. The colors soften in the light of oil lamps. Footsteps become quieter here. Even children lower their voices. The inner hall is not completely dark. Small openings high above allow narrow shafts of sunlight to enter. Dust moves slowly inside them. Smoke from the incense burners curls upward, catches the light, and disappears into the roof's shadow. At the far end stands an image of Serapis. The god is seated with calm authority. His face is bearded in the Greek style. A tall headdress rests above his hair. The figure combines familiarity and mystery. To a Greek visitor, parts of the image may seem recognizable. To an Egyptian worshipper, the deeper meaning may connect with older sacred traditions. The statue does not belong entirely to one world. That may be why it belongs so naturally to Alexandria. A priest moves through the hall, carrying a small vessel of water. He sprinkles the floor near the altar. Purity is important before sacred acts. Water cleans more than dust. It marks a separation between ordinary space and holy space. Another attendant replaces flowers that have begun to fade. Fresh lotus blossoms are placed beside the altar. Their petals remain partly closed in the shade. By morning, new flowers will be brought. Temples require constant work. Floors must be swept. Lamps filled. Offerings arranged. Records maintained. Garments washed. Doors repaired. Statues cleaned and clothed. Sacred places depend upon ordinary labor as much as scholarly halls and merchant ships do. Behind a carved screen, a group of priests prepares for a ritual. You cannot see every movement. Only shadows passing across painted walls. Metal touches stone. A low chant begins. The words are difficult to understand from where you stand. Some are Egyptian. Others may be Greek. The rhythm is slow. Repeated. The chant rises and falls like water moving against the harbor steps. Several worshippers bow their heads. One woman closes her eyes. The child from the staircase watches with complete attention. The sound fills the hall without becoming loud. It does not demand fear. It creates distance from the noise outside. For a few moments, the temple feels removed from the city. Yet Alexandria remains present in every detail. The incense arrived through trade routes. The bronze lamp was made in a local workshop. The papyrus used for temple records grew beside the Nile. The marble may have traveled by ship. Even the sacred is connected to the harbor. A young man approaches the altar with a small wooden tablet. He has written a request upon its wax surface. Perhaps he prepared the words himself. Perhaps a public scribe wrote them. He places the tablet near the lamps. The priest receives it without reading aloud. Not every prayer is meant for other people to hear. The young man touches his forehead, then steps away. His expression has not changed greatly, but his shoulders seem slightly less tense. Sometimes people enter temples seeking miracles. Sometimes they seek a place to set down their fear. You move into a side passage. Smaller chambers open from the main hall. One contains shelves of temple records, lists of offerings, land held by the sanctuary, payments to workers, festival supplies, letters from officials. Religious institutions must keep accounts like any large household. Grain arrives. Oil is consumed. Repairs cost money. Priests and attendants require food. Ceremonial clothing must be produced. Sacred authority and careful administration exist side by side. A temple scribe sits near a window. He copies figures from a wax tablet onto papyrus. The document records deliveries of lamp oil. Row after row. Names, amounts, dates. The work is not poetic, but without it, the flames in the sanctuary might go dark. In another room, a priest studies a sacred text. The papyrus is older than many of the objects around him. The edges are worn. Some sections have been repaired. The writing contains hymns and ritual instructions, words repeated for generations. The priest follows the lines with one finger. He knows much of the text from memory. Still, he checks the wording. Sacred rituals depend upon continuity. A phrase omitted, a sequence reversed, a name spoken incorrectly. Such errors may seem small. Within religious practice, they matter deeply. The priest reads the passage aloud in a quiet voice. An apprentice listens nearby. The younger man will repeat the words later. Knowledge passes from teacher to student here, just as it does in the Museion. The subject is different. The patience is the same. You leave the inner rooms and step into an open courtyard behind the temple. Palm trees cast long shadows across the stone. A small garden grows along the walls. Lotus flowers float inside a rectangular pool. The air is cooler here. Water from a fountain falls in a thin stream. Several visitors rest upon shaded benches after completing their offerings. No one appears eager to return immediately to the crowded avenue. A mother gives her child a piece of bread. An elderly couple sits together in silence. A sailor touches a small charm hanging from his neck. The charm bears the image of Isis. Her worship is deeply connected to Alexandria and to the sea. Sailors trust her protection. Families call upon her care. Her temples attract people from many parts of the Mediterranean. The sailor may have visited the sanctuary of Serapis because the gods of Alexandria are not always approached separately. People seek help wherever they believe help may be found. A worshipper can honor several gods without feeling disloyal. The ancient religious world contains many doors. You follow a garden path toward a smaller gate. Beyond it, another street descends toward a sanctuary dedicated to Isis. The district is filled with flower sellers, lamp makers, and shops offering small religious objects. Clay figures, bronze charms, painted tablets, miniature boats left by sailors, tiny images of mothers holding children. Not every object is expensive. Faith must be accessible to ordinary households. A woman arranges small clay lamps upon a table. Each lamp is made from a mold. The upper surface bears a simple image: a lotus, a ship, a star, a divine face. She pours oil into one lamp to demonstrate that it holds without leaking. A customer examines the clay around the spout. The purchase is practical and sacred at once. The lamp may illuminate a room. It may also burn before a household shrine. Beside the stall, a craftsman carves symbols into pieces of soft stone. His tools are fine. His hands remain steady. A customer has requested a protective charm for a child. The craftsman shapes the surface slowly. He cannot promise protection, but he can create an object that carries hope. Objects such as these become part of everyday life. Tied around the neck, placed beside a bed, hidden inside clothing, buried within the foundations of a home. They remind people that unseen forces may be present, and that people are not entirely powerless before them. You approach the sanctuary of Isis. Its entrance is smaller than the great temple of Serapis, but the atmosphere is more intimate. Painted panels show boats upon blue water. Lotus flowers rise around divine figures. The sound of a rattle-like instrument comes from within. Metal pieces move together in a soft rhythm. A group of worshippers prepares for an evening ceremony. Some wear white linen. Others carry flowers. One attendant holds a covered vessel associated with sacred water. The Nile is not visible from this part of the city, yet its presence is everywhere. Alexandria depends upon canals, lakes, and transport routes connecting the city with the river. The Nile provides grain, water, papyrus, mud for bricks and pottery. It gives Egypt its seasons. A city facing the Mediterranean still turns inward toward the river. Inside the sanctuary, a priestess arranges flowers before an image of Isis. The goddess is shown with calm dignity. Her worship connects royalty, motherhood, protection, healing, mourning, and renewal. Different visitors see different qualities in her. The sailor sees a guide across dangerous water. The mother sees protection for her family. The mourner sees hope beyond loss. A ruler may see sacred authority. A sick person may see healing. A divine image can carry many human needs without changing its face. A young girl stands beside the priestess, holding a basket of petals. She passes them forward one handful at a time. The petals are scattered across the altar. The girl takes her responsibility seriously. She watches carefully, waits for the signal, then offers another handful. Her role is small, but she performs it with the concentration of someone entrusted with something important. The priestess smiles briefly. The ceremony continues. A musician begins playing a slow melody upon a reed flute. The notes are soft. They move through the chamber and into the courtyard. Outside, people on the street continue walking. Some slow down as they hear the music. A man carrying a basket pauses near the gate. He does not enter. He simply listens for a moment, then continues on his way. Sacred sound belongs partly to the temple and partly to the city around it. You step back into the street. The sunlight has begun to soften. The strongest heat of the day is passing. Shadows extend from the columns. Merchants rearrange their goods. Temple visitors move downhill toward homes, workshops, and the harbor. A procession is being prepared in a nearby square. Not for today, for a festival approaching later in the season. Workers inspect a ceremonial platform made from wood. Painters repair faded details. Carpenters test the wheels beneath it. Tailors unfold long pieces of dyed fabric. Musicians practice a rhythm using drums and metal instruments. Festivals require weeks of preparation. The public may see only the finished procession. The banners, music, flowers, priests, statues carried through the streets. But behind the celebration are ordinary craftspeople. Someone sews the cloth. Someone paints the wood. Someone feeds the animals. Someone organizes the route. Someone ensures there is enough oil for every lamp. The sacred becomes visible through skilled hands. A carpenter kneels beside one wheel. He finds a crack near the rim. The damage is small. During the procession, it could become serious. He calls for another worker. Together, they remove the wheel. A replacement piece of wood will be fitted. The festival cannot depend upon luck alone. Nearby, two musicians repeat the same short passage. The first attempt is uneven. They stop, begin again. The second is better. A drummer joins. The rhythm grows steadier. Several children gather at the edge of the square to watch. One child begins copying the drummer's movements using 2 sticks. His friend laughs. The drummer notices but does not object. Perhaps he remembers doing the same thing years earlier. Ceremony becomes tradition because children watch, then imitate, then one day perform the same actions for another generation. You leave the square and enter a residential lane. Here, religious life becomes smaller, more private. Nearly every household contains some form of shrine. Some are built into painted wall niches. Others consist of a small shelf holding lamps, flowers, and family objects. A merchant's home has left its door open for air. From the street, you can see a shrine near the courtyard. Tiny painted figures stand above an offering bowl. The merchant's wife places a few drops of wine inside it. She does not wear ceremonial clothing. No priest is present. Her prayer is part of the household routine. A few words before the evening meal. A request for safety. A moment of gratitude. Then she returns to the kitchen. For most people, religion is not limited to large temples. It exists at the doorway, beside the hearth, inside the workshop, on the ship, at the family table. A dockworker may touch a charm before lifting a heavy load. A mother may whisper a prayer when her child is feverish. A merchant may leave an offering after a profitable voyage. A soldier may carry the image of a god from his homeland. Faith travels with people. Alexandria gives it countless places to settle. Farther along, you pass a small Jewish prayer house within one of the city's communities. Alexandria is home to a large Jewish population with its own traditions, teachers, texts, and places of gathering. The building does not resemble the temples you have just visited. No divine statue stands within. The practices, laws, and understanding of God are different. A man exits carrying a scroll wrapped in cloth. Two others remain near the doorway speaking quietly. The city contains forms of worship that do not easily blend into the same system. Alexandria is diverse. But diversity does not mean every belief becomes identical. People may live close together while preserving important distinctions. They trade in the same markets, use the same streets, depend upon the same water, and still understand the sacred in very different ways. This too is part of Alexandria. Not perfect harmony, not endless conflict, a complicated daily closeness. You return toward the main avenue. The late afternoon sun now shines directly between the columns. Stone surfaces glow amber. The air carries incense from the temples, bread from the market, and salt from the distant harbor. A priest walks past a Roman official. A Greek student steps aside for an Egyptian family. A sailor wearing an Isis charm buys fruit from a Jewish merchant. Each continues toward a different destination. For a moment, the entire city seems gathered into one crossing. Different languages, different gods, different memories, the same sunlight. You pause beside a public fountain. The water flows from the mouth of a carved stone figure into a deep basin. A woman fills 2 jars. A temple attendant washes dust from his hands. A child drinks from a small cup. Water does not ask who is Greek, Egyptian, Roman, Jewish, rich, poor, scholar, sailor. It simply moves through the city. Perhaps that is why fountains become natural meeting places. Everyone eventually arrives. You sit beneath the shade of a column. The steps of the Serapis remain visible above the rooftops. Farther away, the Pharos rises beside the sea. The city's great symbols watch over different parts of Alexandria. The lighthouse guides bodies through darkness. The temple's guide hopes through uncertainty. The scholarly hall's guide questions toward understanding. None offers complete safety. Ships still sink. Prayers still go unanswered. Scholars still make mistakes. But people continue building lights. Temples, libraries. They continue creating places where fear can be faced together. The sunlight lowers. The sound of a temple instrument carries faintly across the district. A second sound answers from another sanctuary. Then a bell from the harbor. The city enters the final part of the afternoon. Workers who began before sunrise now think about food and rest. The wealthy prepare for bathing, visits, and evening meals. Sailors check ropes before night. Priests trim lamps. Scholars cover their ink. Alexandria changes with the light. You rise and continue toward the royal quarter near the waterfront. Its gardens, palaces, courtyards, and guarded entrances once belonged to a dynasty that ruled Egypt for centuries. Only recently, those halls witnessed the end of Cleopatra's reign. The city outside has continued working. But inside the royal district, silence now rests where power once spoke loudly. Ahead, palm trees rise above high walls. Marble roofs shine beside the sea. Roman guards stand near a gateway that once answered to a queen. The temples have shown you how Alexandria reaches toward the divine. Now, the abandoned spaces of royalty will reveal how quickly earthly power can change. The sacred district slowly fades behind you. Incense still clings faintly to your clothing as you follow the avenue toward the sea. The late afternoon light has softened. White stone no longer shines with the brightness of midday. Instead, the columns, rooftops, and temple walls glow in shades of amber and pale gold. Ahead, palm trees rise above a long enclosure wall. Beyond them lies the royal quarter of Alexandria. For nearly 3 centuries, the Ptolemaic rulers of Egypt built palaces, gardens, halls, shrines, and private harbors along this part of the coastline. From here, kings and queens watched ships enter the great harbor. Foreign ambassadors walked through decorated courtyards. Officials carried sealed documents between government buildings. Servants prepared banquets. Musicians performed beneath painted ceilings. And generations of rulers attempted to govern a kingdom stretching far beyond the city walls. Only a short time ago, these halls belonged to Cleopatra. Now, Roman guards stand near the entrance. The change is recent enough that many people in Alexandria still speak of the queen in the present tense. Some remember her public ceremonies. Others remember taxes, political struggles, or rumors repeated in the marketplace. A few may have seen her procession from a distance. Most never entered the royal buildings at all. The lives of rulers often appear enormous in written history. But to ordinary people, the palace is usually a distant place behind guarded walls. The baker still must light his oven. The fisherman still watches the weather. The mother still carries water. The merchant still worries about prices. Power changes above them. Life continues below. You approach the gateway. 2 Roman soldiers stand beneath a stone arch. Their armor reflects the warm sunlight. One speaks quietly with an Egyptian official holding a wax tablet. The official has probably served the royal administration for years. He understands the city, its warehouses, its canals, its taxes, its records. The new rulers need people like him. Empires may change quickly, but administration depends upon those who know where everything is stored. Which ships have paid their fees? Which farmers owe grain? which workers maintain the canals, and which documents contain promises made years earlier. The guard allows a group of servants to pass through the gate. They carry baskets of linen, jars of oil, and bundles of fresh herbs. The royal quarter has not become completely empty. Buildings still require maintenance. Rooms must be cleaned, gardens watered, animals fed, officials housed, guards supplied. A palace does not become silent simply because the person at its center is gone. You enter behind them. The city sounds immediately grow softer. High walls protect the gardens from the noise of the avenue. Stone pathways wind between palms, flowering shrubs, and carefully trimmed hedges. Water travels through narrow channels into shallow pools. The soft movement of fountains replaces the distant cries of merchants. A gardener kneels beside a bed of flowers. He removes dry leaves one by one. His work continues without ceremony. The flowers do not understand Roman victory. They only respond to sunlight, water, and care. A second gardener carries a clay vessel toward a young fig tree. He pours slowly around its base. The soil darkens. A sparrow lands nearby, watching for insects disturbed by the water. Nothing in the garden appears abandoned. Yet the atmosphere has changed. The pathways feel unusually open. Several windows remain shuttered. A ceremonial doorway is guarded but unused. Decorative banners have been removed from one courtyard. Empty fittings remain where they once hung. The absence is quiet, not dramatic. A place can reveal change through what is no longer there. You walk beneath a covered colonnade. Painted panels decorate the walls. Some show scenes from Greek mythology. Others contain Egyptian plants, sacred animals, and symbols of royal authority. The style changes from one section to another. Like the rest of Alexandria, the royal quarter was built by people who inherited more than one world. At the far side of the colonnade, an open terrace overlooks the water. The great harbor spreads below. Ships move slowly between the breakwaters. Small rowing boats cross between anchored vessels. The Lighthouse of Pharos stands above everything. During daylight, its fire is difficult to see, but the tower itself catches the final sun. Its upper walls glow bright against the deep blue sea. A servant has placed several chairs along the terrace. No one sits in them. Perhaps officials will gather here later. Perhaps they remain from an earlier meeting. The sea breeze passes through the empty space. A loose piece of linen moves gently across one chair, then becomes still. You continue toward another courtyard. This one is larger. At its center rests a rectangular pool surrounded by dark stone. The surface reflects the palace walls and the slowly changing sky. A bronze statue stands at one end. The figure may represent a ruler, a god, or an ancestor. Its face remains calm. Bronze does not react when dynasties end. A young servant walks around the pool, gathering fallen petals. She places them inside a woven basket. Her sandals make almost no sound. At one point, she looks toward the statue. Perhaps she remembers a ceremony held here. Perhaps she is simply checking the sky. Then she returns to her work. In a shaded room beside the courtyard, several scribes sit at long tables. The royal administration has not stopped. Stacks of wax tablets rest before them. Papyrus documents lie beneath stone weights. One scribe reads a record aloud. Another compares it with a newer list. The document concerns grain shipments, names of estates, Amounts collected. Warehouses used. Ships assigned. The handwriting may have been created under Cleopatra's authority. The new notes are being added under Rome. The papyrus does not resist the transition. Ink follows whoever holds the pen. A senior clerk walks between the tables. He speaks both Greek and Egyptian. Now he is learning the language and legal habits of Roman officials. His position is uncertain, but his knowledge is valuable. He knows the old system. The newcomers do not. For the moment, that is enough. Near the wall, a Roman officer studies a map of the Nile Delta. He points toward a canal route. The Egyptian clerk corrects him gently. The waterway shown on the map becomes too shallow during part of the year. Another route is longer, but more reliable. The officer listens. Empires often imagine that conquest creates complete control. Then they discover that the land itself follows older rules. River levels, wind, harvest seasons, mud, distance. The knowledge of local people cannot be replaced by a new flag. The discussion continues quietly. You leave the administrative room and enter a long gallery open to the sea. Here the air carries the smell of salt and flowering plants. Stone columns create a repeated pattern of shadow and light. At the far end, a musician sits alone holding a small lyre. He tests one string, tightens it, tests it again. The note rises into the empty gallery. It travels between the columns and disappears toward the harbor. The musician begins playing a slow melody. Perhaps it once accompanied royal meals. Perhaps it is simply a tune he knows well. There is no audience. Still, he plays carefully. Art does not always require a crowd. Sometimes the act itself is enough. You stand beside one of the columns and listen. The melody mixes with the sound of the sea below. Behind you, scribes continue writing. Gardeners continue watering plants. Guards continue watching the gate. The palace is not frozen in grief. It is already adapting. This is how history often feels to people living through it. Not like a clear ending. Not like a chapter closing. More like a collection of altered routines. A new uniform at the gate. A different name spoken in official rooms. A missing face at a ceremony. A coin carrying another image. Changes that slowly become ordinary. The musician finishes. He places the lyre inside a cloth covering. The final note remains for a moment, then fades. You continue along the gallery until it opens onto a smaller harbor reserved for royal vessels. The water here is sheltered. Several elegant boats rest beside stone steps. Their hulls are painted. Bronze fittings catch the light. Most remain unused. A crew works on one vessel near the quay. They inspect the ropes, clean the deck, repair a section of painted wood. Ships require attention whether or not they sail. Salt weakens rope. Water enters cracks. Wood expands beneath the sun. The crew works slowly. One man hums. Another tells a story that makes the others laugh. Even inside the royal harbor, work becomes lighter when shared. A small boat enters, carrying baskets from the city. Fresh bread, fruit, wine, vegetables. The palace still consumes the products of Alexandria. Someone must cook. Someone must eat. The baskets are lifted onto the quay and counted. A kitchen servant examines the fish. A clerk checks the delivery. Coins are exchanged. The royal quarter depends upon the same markets as every other part of the city. Its walls create distance, but not independence. The sun lowers toward the western horizon. The light becomes orange. Every surface appears warmer. The palms cast longer shadows across the gardens. The water in the harbor turns from blue to bronze. Workers begin completing their final tasks. Tools are gathered. Documents rolled. Doors secured. Lamps filled with oil. The royal quarter prepares for evening. You make your way back toward the main avenue. As you pass through the gate, the full sound of Alexandria returns. Cards, voices, animals, hammering from a workshop. The call of a seller making one final attempt to attract customers. The city has not waited for you. It has continued moving. The market district is beginning to close. Fruit sellers gather what remains. Small figs are placed back inside baskets. Wilted leaves are removed from vegetables. Bread that was warm in the morning is now sold at a lower price. A laborer purchases 2 loaves. They are firm, but still filling. A spice merchant closes his wooden boxes. He checks each lid carefully. The perfumes are carried into a locked room. Glass bottles are too valuable to leave near the street. The cloth seller lowers dyed fabrics from their frame. For a few moments, red, gold, green, and blue move together in the evening breeze. Then they disappear behind wooden shutters. The market loses its color one stall at a time. The flower seller has only a few garlands left. She gives one to a young girl carrying water. The child looks surprised. The seller waves away any attempt at payment. Flowers do not last. Better to give them away than watch them fade unseen. The girl places the garland around her shoulders. She continues down the street smiling. A small moment, unrecorded, yet perhaps remembered for years. You walk toward the harbor. The broad avenue that felt almost empty before sunrise is now filled with people returning home. Workers carry tools over their shoulders. Servants hold baskets of food. Students walk together, discussing something from the day's lesson. A sailor moves in the opposite direction toward his ship. A mother leads 2 tired children by the hand. One child sleeps against her shoulder. The other drags a wooden toy along the pavement. Evening gathers everyone into the same streets. At a public fountain, a line has formed. Families collect water before night. Clay jars are filled one after another. The fountain's flow remains steady. A woman balances a full vessel upon her head. Another carries 2 smaller jars. A boy splashes water onto his face. His mother tells him not to waste it. He laughs, then helps lift their container. The air becomes cooler. Shadows deepen beneath the colonnades. The first oil lamps are lit inside shops and homes. Their flames are barely visible at first. Then the sunlight weakens, and every lamp grows brighter. You pass the bakery from the morning. The shelves are nearly empty. The baker sweeps flour from the floor. His assistant stacks wooden trays. The oven still contains warmth. A final batch of small loaves has been removed. Several are set aside for the household. One loaf is broken open. Steam no longer rises from it, but the interior remains soft. The assistant dips a piece into oil and eats while standing. He has been working since before dawn. His movements are slower now. The baker hands him another piece. No words are needed. Across the street, a cook stirs a pot above charcoal. Lentils, onions, and herbs create a familiar evening fragrance. Customers sit on low stools with bowls in their hands. Dock workers, travelers, a messenger, an elderly man who appears to come here often. They eat quietly. The day has taken away their desire for conversation. Warm food is enough. You continue toward the waterfront. The harbor is changing shifts. Some workers leave. Others arrive for the night. Ships preparing to depart at dawn require guards. Cargo must remain secure. Ropes must be checked as the water moves. The lighthouse must be prepared for darkness. On Pharos, workers carry fuel upward through the enormous structure. The journey to the top is long. Wood, oil, tools, and supplies move through ramps and stairways hidden inside the tower. High above, the fire attendants prepare the beacon. The sun has not yet disappeared, but the light must be ready before it is needed. The harbor depends upon preparation. A sailor standing on a ship's deck watches the lighthouse. He knows that somewhere beyond the harbor walls, other vessels are already searching for its flame. Some have traveled for days, others for weeks. For them, Alexandria may still be hidden beneath the horizon. The first glow from Pharos will tell them that land is near, that the journey has almost ended. You sit upon a stone step beside the water. The same step may have welcomed thousands of travelers. Merchants carrying contracts, students seeking teachers, families beginning new lives, soldiers sent by distant rulers, sailors who promised they would return. Some arrived with excitement, some with fear, some simply exhausted. Every person saw the same harbor, yet entered a different Alexandria. To one person, the city meant opportunity. To another, exile. To another, study, trade, worship, home. Cities do not have a single meaning. They become whatever people bring to them. The sun touches the western sea. The sky changes slowly. Gold becomes orange. Orange deepens into red. The clouds nearest the horizon glow from below. Ships become dark shapes against the light. Their masts form thin lines across the sky. A flock of seabirds returns toward the breakwater. The water carries the final sunlight beneath them. Then,